it's really interesting that you brought up, how people, stick their head in the sand, when they're going through difficult things, when in actuality it's about acknowledging and recognizing the issue. And I think that's true for any challenge in life, so to speak. Yet I can understand why it's a challenge, because if I suppose it's a little bit to do with, who we are as people growing up, right? Whether it's nature or nurture or however you want to define it. If your natural inclination is to hide your head in the sand, then regardless of how severe the challenge or the obstacle, or be it cancer or anything else, that's going to be the natural outcome. Do you have any thoughts on how one can rethink that state of mind, knowing full well that this is their modus operandi, until that, until something as severe as cancer, for example?
Yeah, I would say that building resilience and constantly training yourself to step outside your comfort zone will help you. And I've been lucky that I am someone like that who's always pushed myself. I'm very focused on understanding, my strengths and weaknesses, and focusing on my weaknesses and how I can improve myself. So, trying to do things, I guess in a weird way, I'm a sort of an adrenaline junkie in that way. Like, I'm not in the bungee, jumping kind of way, but um, in the way that, for example, I'm really phobic of public speaking. I really just don't like it. But I sometimes try and find opportunities to do it, because if I manage it, I'm so overwhelmingly proud of myself when I manage, because I know how awful I find it, how difficult I find it. And so, there's that feeling of tremendous achievement when you've done something. So I deliberately seek out those opportunities. Uh, but that meant that, when I came across something like this, which is obviously the ultimate challenge, I was able to just say, this is just something that you need to do. And for me, I would actually say that childbirth has been the thing that has prepared me most mentally for what I experienced. So I've had 3 natural births with my 3 daughters, and each experience was completely unique, and very, very difficult, all 3. But weirdly, each time I entered each birth with such an optimism. I really thought, well, that first one didn't go so well and that wasn't great, but this time it's going to work. I'm going to have like a water birth, or, a hypnobirth, and no. And in fact, the 3rd one was the worst. So it's just ridiculous how that kind of happens. But I definitely have the kind of mindset where no matter what, and even based on previous experience, I'm still optimistic. And that's how I was with each dose of my chemotherapy. Having to go back every single week, I'd just be starting to feel well again, and then knowing I'd have to go in, but thinking, yeah, but you know what? I bet I'll be better this time. Even though it was last week was a horrendous nightmare, the side effects this week, I bet they won't be as bad as last week, because they were actually always different. So it felt like a bit of a lottery, as to what I would suffer that particular week. So I was always really optimistic about how well I'd cope.
Right.
So yeah, I would say to people, really, please try and push yourself in small ways. And it really doesn't have to be, like I said, getting on stage and speaking to a crowd. But it can be little things. I mean, even if you haven't been to the pool and swam for many years, go and have a swim. Or maybe you're an adult and you haven't cycled for a long time, go and rent one of those bikes and have a go. Just little things that you feel a little bit uncomfortable, try it and see and feel proud of yourself. You feel a really, great sense of personal accomplishment. And I think it's important to acknowledge that for yourself.